more time today. Oh, and I've ordered my son showed me this microphone, this wireless mic. So starting hopefully tomorrow, if not tomorrow, then the next day, when you watch the videos, the audio won't be so jacked up. Because he's ordered me a wireless mic that's clipped to my shirt. And then so when I'm talking, it'll be much more audible. Now you have to put on headphones and turn it way up or whatever. You won't do that. Okay, so here we go. So it says solve for y, right? In number one. What's our first step in number one in order to solve for y? Aiden? Add an x on each side. Y. Add 5x. If I add 5x to this side, what does this become? I didn't move anything.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, make sure you're doing inverse operations. You subtract. Oh, it's on freeze. Okay? Hey, you took your mouth closed. You're killing me, Smalls.
No, I have subtraction at first.
I know, chew your mouth closed. Subtract 5x. Right? Now, here's the thing. So what went away is this. What's left is negative 2y. Some of you forget to bring that negative sign down. Make sure you don't do that. Equals. What? Write now you could write 8 minus 5x, right? I want you to get in the habit of writing the x term first. My kids met me last year. I think I already made you start doing this. I want the x term written first plus 8. I want this guy before the 8. I want the x term first. Okay? So now that I'm here, what's my final step to get the y by itself? Divide by negative 2. Now, a lot of times we would put it all the way across negative 2. Here's what I want you to start doing. Divide every term by negative 2. Now, what you end up with is y equals, what's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. And does 5 divided by 2 simplify? No. If you do math in your inner, it stays 5 over 2x minus 4. That is your answer. Y equals 5 over 2x minus 4. Yes, sir?
What about if you said the decimal was repeating stuff?
I did. But now that we're starting slope, I want you to only ever use improper simplified fractions. That's a very good point. Remember, I did tell y'all when you get a 3, you could use a good decimal, right? So if you put 2.5x, you're okay. But from now on in Unit 4, I want you to leave it as a simplified improper fraction, which basically means math enter will become your friend. Because math enter always leaves it as a simplified improper fraction. Does that make sense? Okay, step 1 here. Subtract 7x. Very good. Subtract 7x from both sides. This goes away. Leaves me with negative y equals negative 7x plus 3. Now, did I solve for y yet? I have not solved for y. What must I do to get the y as y? Yes, sir.
Divide by negative 1.
Perfect. Divide both sides, every single thing by negative 1. By the way, one other way to think about it, if you change the value of everything all at the same time, it does the same thing. I'll show you what that looks like. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Negative divided by negative is a positive, so 7x minus 3. What I was saying before is watch this. If you had this, and if you have negative y, and you want it to be y, you change the value of every single item. So this becomes y equals 7x minus 3. Done. You can just change the value of everything. That's what I do. It's the same as dividing by negative 1 or multiplying by negative 1, but for me it's easier because it doesn't sound like it's math even though it really is. Okay? Any questions on that at all? Cool. So here we go. Notes. Now remember, I'm going to roll through these notes. You're going to fill it in on your note sheet. Oh my gosh, dude, you are killing me, Smalls. I'm not playing around. And that's on the board. Look, there are packets on the front table and 3 pages of notes. Yeah, because half is great. Oh no, it's not. That's a 50. Anyway, so here we go. What's the slope of a line? That's another way to describe it, Riley. That's exactly what it is. The slope of a line refers to its steepness. The slope of a line refers to that line's steepness. if a line rises from the left to the right, if it rises from the left to the right, then your slope will have a positive value. It should be the first thing you use to evaluate the slope of a line. Is it an increasing line, which means it's a positive slope? Or if it falls from the left to the right, then the slope will have a negative value. So basically in your head, guys, I want you asking yourself, is that an increasing line, which is a positive slope, or is it a decreasing line, which is a negative slope? Now here's some interesting tricks. If the line is horizontal, it is neither increasing nor decreasing. The line is horizontal, your slope is 0. If your line is vertical, then your slope is undefined. And that is the exact term you are to use. Don't say it's nothing. Don't say it's infinity. You tell me the slope is undefined. So if it is horizontal, it is a 0 slope, and if it is vertical, it is an undefined slope. Okay? Anybody still struggle with horizontal versus vertical? It means you would remember it if you need to. Oh yeah, not that, but how do you know horizontal is horizon? If you look off at the sun setting on the horizon is a line that goes left to right. Horizontal horizon. Horizontal horizon. Okay? And then the other one's vertical. There's really no good remembering from vertical, it just is. It's the other guy. Okay? It's the other like me. What was the other like me? Okay. Slope from graphs, tables, and ordered pairs. When we measure slope, and again, this should be a kind of a repeat from last year, just like we can measure length, and we can measure width, and we can measure area, and we can measure the angle of something. We can measure the slope of something. It is a measurement. But slope is an interesting measurement because it is a ratio. It is a ratio, something over something, right? Rise over run, change in y over change in x. That's how you measure the slant of a line, right? It has to be a ratio of how fast it's going up over how fast it's going over. That tells you how slanted it is, okay? In order to find the slope of a line when given a graph, we are going to find the rise over the run, write it as a fraction or a ratio, and we are going to simplify it. You are going to find the rise over the run, write it as a fraction, and then simplify it. The rise is measured as an up or a down. The run is only measured to the right. That is critically important. You will never run left. If you are running left, you are screwing up. You're making a mistake. You rise up or down, and you only run to the right. It's almost like, it's like reading a book. We only read left to right. You only run left to right. Okay? In order to find the slope when given a table, you will find the change in the y values and put it over the change in the x values, which is called delta y over delta x, and you will simplify that as well. This is delta. This is a Greek letter delta. Change in y, it's also called change in y over change in x. What do you think your screw up is? What's your common mistake? X over y. That's your mistake. But if you think about, what does the y-axis look like? Right, it's the rise. The y-axis is the rise. So if you can remember rise over run, then you can remember that it's y over x, because the x value is this guy, it's the run. Okay? And finally, when you're given ordered pairs, you will use what's called the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. and just write all this down, and we're going to kind of practice it a little bit. Okay? Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. You will use that slope formula. Any questions on what we've written so far? I know you don't know how to apply some of them, but we're going to do that in a second. Okay? The triangle is a Greek letter called delta, and in mathematics, delta means change in. It just means the change in. Okay? The triangle is a Greek letter called delta. And in fact, you'll see in upper level mathematics, sometimes on your calculators, you see a lot of Greek letters. Like there's one called sigma that looks like this. There's one called theta that looks like this. Why do you think there are a lot of Greek letters in mathematics? Because the Greeks invented modern mathematics. Pythagoras, the main one. The Greeks basically invented modern mathematics. And you notice that some of you have wondered that this clock in our room says it's a little bit before 10. This clock over here says it's a little bit before 6. That is the time in Athens, Greece. So there's a mathematical connection. So I always keep the time both here and in Greece because the Greeks are that important to mathematics. So if you ever wondered why that clock is there and it's off, it's not off, it's just not here. It's in Greece. Okay? So let's do some practicing. Now you have a slope from a graph notes. Find the one that says slope from a graph. And I want you to watch because it's critically important that you do it my way or the highway. Now, I already said you will never run which direction? You'll never run left. So here's what we do. On a graph, we identify 2 points. We want to pick good points. In other words, we want to pick points that cross at exact places. Because if it's not an exact place, it's a fraction or a decimal, and fractions or decimals sometimes suck. Plus, we don't know exactly where they are. So here we go. Everyone watching? We start with the point on the left. That would be this one here. And we are either going to rise up or rise down. Now, we're trying to get to the next point. Anybody ever played with an Etch-a-Sketch? Remember we talked about Etch-a-Sketch. So next one we're going to use Etch-a-Sketch to get to the next point. So we need to go up or down first. Up. So we have to rise, and we have to decide how many. Now, I want you to watch me real quick. If I'm counting steps, everyone eyes on me. If I'm counting steps, do I go 1, 2, 3? No. You don't count until you're moving. So if you're counting here, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we rose 4. So we rose 4. How many would we have to run? 1. We run 1. To get over to that point, we just had to run 1 step, which makes our slope 4 over 1, which simplifies to what? 4. Your slope is 4. If it's a whole number, you can make it a whole number. If it's a fraction, you leave it as a fraction. Okay? So look at number 2. We're going to try to find 2 good places. Now, can I use that point right there? No, because it's not crossing at a good place. I am going to use here and here. I want to select good places.
Because if you see a little bit, it's not really on the line.
You're not saying very long. We're working. This is a very important unit. Don't screw it up. Why are you here? To socialize?
Yeah.
Okay, sit there quietly. Okay, so I'm going to start at which point? Left or right? Left. Let's start on the left. Am I going to go up or down? Down. If you're going down, what kind of a number are we going to have? It's going to be a negative number. So let's see if we can count how far we would go down. Remember, count the steps. What do you get?
3.
-3. Perfect. We are rising -3. We are essentially rising down. And what's our run? 2. Very good. Our run is 2. That's our run. So -3 over 2 simplify. If you do math enter, what do you think it tells you? So just negative 3 over 2. That is your slope. Now we get into the trick. Now remember we had horizontal and vertical, right? And one was 0 and one was undefined. And my kids who had me last year already know what my trick is, but watch. So you're either dealing with a 0 slope or you're dealing with an undefined slope. And it's easy to get them all mixed up unless you can remember what each one starts with. And watch. 0 starts with a Z, correct? I want you to... Undefined starts with a U, which means that vertical lines are undefined, 0 lines are horizontal. Z for 0 is horizontal, U is undefined, it's vertical. Is this horizontal or vertical? You're right, Zoe. It's horizontal. Good call. Is that 0 or undefined? 0. It is a 0. It is a 0 slope. Z for 0, because you can only make horizontal lines out of a Z. You cannot make a horizontal line out of a U. Okay? Questions on that? Okay. Also, slope from a table. Now this is that weird thing. That triangle, change in y over change in x. Before we do anything, we're going to write change in y over change in x every single time. We're going to remind ourselves the screw up is x over y. Okay? So get into the habit of writing it. Now here's the way this works. I want everyone to watch because I don't know. Some of you who had Miss Allborn last year, I know she taught it like this, but I don't know how everyone else taught it. Here's what you do. You ask yourself, thinking of a number line, how do you get from the 3 to the 6? Mathematically? No. Addition or subtraction? Addition or subtraction only. Plus 3. How do you get from the 6 to the 12? Plus 6. How do you get from the 12 to the 15? Plus 3. And here is plus 6. You're like, oh my gosh, it's like all over the board. Now to the y side. Now again, thinking carefully on a number line. How do you get from negative 6 to negative 8? Subtract 2. How do you get from 8 to negative 12? Now, once you do all of them, which you will do on this first assignment, you will always do all of them. You simply pick a corresponding change in y and a corresponding change in x, and you write them over one another. Negative 4 over positive 6. And in your calculator, you type in negative 4 divided by 6, and you do math, enter, enter, and it will tell you it's negative 2/3. You simply simplify it. And by the way, what is it if we've done these two? Negative 2 over 3. Negative 2 over 3. Negative 2 over 3. Slope is constant.
Does it matter which one you do?
Does not, as long as you pick corresponding ones.
Oh, like, since those both are the highest number.
No, that's not why I picked them. I picked them because they're in the same place. Okay? You have to pick corresponding changes. So let's try this one. How do you get from 1 to 3? Plus 2, plus 4, plus 2, plus 6. How do you get from 8 to 8? Here. 0, 0, 0. Pick up your calculators really quickly. We'll do 2 over 0. Changing y over changing x. I want you to type in 2 divided by 0 and hit enter. And tell me what you have. Well, you guys got a 3-day weekend. It says what?
Error.
Why does it say error? Because how many times is 0 going to? 0. Well, it goes in a lot. Doesn't make any sense. It's undefined. Which means we know that this is a vertical line because it's undefined. If you graph these, you'll get a vertical line. Find number 3 on your own. Find the changes in x's, the changes in y's, pick corresponding, changing y over changing x, simplify it, be done. Change your y, change your x. Be careful when you're doing the changes that you're thinking about them on a number line. It'll help you avoid any mistake with positives and negatives. What bucket is the slope? -1 is indeed the slope. -4 divided by -1, or -2 divided by +2, or -5 divided by +5. They are all -1 when they simplify. Okay? M is slope. M is the variable that always stands for slope. So when you're giving me the slope, you will always write M equals. M represents slope. That's a really good question. M represents slope all the time. Okay? All right. Really quickly, before we get going, look at the two dots on the board. What can you instantly tell me about the slope? It's positive because it's increasing from the left to the right. It's increasing from the left to the right. Now, if I say, I want you to find me the slope, you can use any of these methods. You could either do the rise over the run, right? And write it that way. You could write the ordered pairs, put them in a table, and find change in y over change in x. Either way works. When I give you ordered pairs, some people like to graph them and find rise over run. Some people like to put them in a table and find change in y over change in x. It should not matter. It shouldn't matter. You should always get the same slope, no matter which way you choose. Okay? Now, really quickly before we get going, look at that, and let's measure the slope. Okay? So let's do rise over run. So, let's see. What do I get for the rise?
It's 5, but you gotta do the thing because it's going by 3.
It's going by 3s.
So you gotta.
So how many of, look at the labels. Oh,
I didn't know
which
that.
means it's up 15 and it's over.
4.
Ah, so you had to look at those labels too.
Yeah.
Now, log that one in your brain, because if you're going fast and you're not paying attention to the labels on a coordinate grid, I will absolutely catch you on that. First thing you look at is the scale of the graph. Now, if there are no numbers on it, you assume it's going by ones. But if there are labels, this is the slope because that cannot simplify. So you would write m equals 15 over 4. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? All right. This is a decent, remember, if you want to put it in your notes, you're welcome to. This is plus, this is minus, this is 0, this is undefined. And there are some who get a little bit confused when it's written as a fraction as to whether it's undefined or 0. Okay? There's a certain way to remember. If you have, here, I'll just do it on the board, that way the recording can catch it too. If you have -3 over 0, or you have 0 over -3, one is an undefined, one is 0. Because they're not the same slope. There's a fairly simple way to, does anybody know, does anybody have a guess as to which one's undefined, left or right, Kate? Okay. Why do you think the one on the right is undefined? Was it like an educated guess kind of thing? Okay. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
We'll sing later. Go ahead, keep going.
So the one on the left, I don't know how many times 0 can go into it.
Yeah, 0 can't go into -3. Well, it can, just a whole bunch of time. Here's the way to remember it. You cannot do this, you can do that mathematically. You cannot do this, so it's undefined. You can do this, so it's okay and it's zero. No and okay. Some kids like that. Some do.
So it would be
Zero's on the right, undefined's on the left. Another way to think about it is this. These are the tricks that I like. Okay? So this is M equals undefined because you cannot do it. It is no allowed. By the way, which means it's a vertical line. This is M equals 0. So it is a horizontal line. All these little different tricks. Doesn't matter which one you choose, as long as you pick one, you remember it. Okay? Y'all got about 20 minutes before the bell. You've got classwork. I'll pick up all these notes. You've got classwork. I'll put the keys out. I would strongly encourage you to, on this unit specifically, do all your available classwork before you leap into your homework. I'm just telling you. There's homework today, and it is out as well. Ready, set, go. Madison Blackson. Uh-oh, Madison Avery's mad at you. All these 22, all of the notes for the first set. So for pages, you would put 31, 32, and 33. She did not know, Avery. Stop being mean.